Yeah, I can just stay on audio, I guess.
There you go. We don't have to see anything.
Her mom came over, so I was able to run to CVS, get some medicine real quick.
Hey there, it's now now I see it like normal. There, I got a guy at work I'm texting. Hold on.
All right. Well, we're live, so tell your guy. He's good to go.
All right.
Roll with it. So roll with it, Tony. Who we got with us?
It says, I don't know. It doesn't say we're live. I don't see it on YouTube.
Yeah, we're live.
Okay, I believe you. I don't know how to work this. All right, we're live. So welcome. Happy Thursday. Today we are joined by Austin. Austin Adams works with me at Lippert. He is a purchasing manager. So all you people that have been wanting to know what's inside the mind of a purchasing guy, today is your chance.
Hey, that's what that's my wife's title too.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, purchasing manager.
Very cool.
I think she's got stock in Amazon now. Pretty sure they gifted it to her.
Yeah, I was a purchasing manager after we got home from Vegas.
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So let's talk a little bit here. I mean, I kind of let it out with, decision makers and whatnot, and you look for those, and there's more than one usually, right? I mean, if not just one that can either make the decision or at least get you rolling on the right path. So, but I think purchasing manager, I know I've come along to know that that's something that's important, but a lot of people, are just looking for that logistics coordinator or director of supply chain or, whatever it is. And they don't really reach outside of that or even know, what role they play once you do have an existing customer, and the assets there. But so what roles and what effects do you have on that day-to-day, freight that people are moving, and then kind of the overall supply chain for the company as well?
Yeah. So, exactly what you mentioned. We have our own director of logistics and a director of supply chain who definitely are at a higher level, making a lot of decisions. My day-to-day, I mean, it's more of communicating with carriers. I work over our receiving team as well. So, we're taking anywhere from 6 to 8 containers a day, right? And we're trying to schedule by appointment. So, I mean, yeah, a lot of it's facilitating. It's making decisions within the team. What's coming in? What do we need to buy? From this person because this container is not coming today. That's really what a lot of it is right now. Just you guys know, right? The nature of the overall supply chain. But yeah, it's a little more. I'd say less negotiating, like any freight and carrier decisions, and just like facilitating and communicating with those guys, trying to point out what's important today or tomorrow, and just keep the plant moving. Really.
How hard is it to change that stuff in transit?
Oh, it's difficult. I've found. So I learned this the hard way. If you want to Teams truck something from the port, instead of having it go on the rail, you have to communicate weeks in advance, not a week before it hits the port. So yeah, it's difficult. I mean, I'd say overall right now we're probably hitting at about 50%. So if we get, the day before, we've got 8 appointments set up and they've got 8 pools coming, and we might see 4, maybe 5 on a good day.
Does Tony, let's get real here for a moment, because that's what we're about here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does Tony make your job easier, or does he make your job harder?
It depends.
Would you recommend Tony?
Yeah. Highly recommend Tony. When he's helping me get parts out to our sister plants across the country, very helpful. When he's asking for more space in his shipping yard because I'm throwing all the material out there, I want to wring his neck. But
that's daily.
Yeah, no, Tony's super helpful. I mean, I can't tell you how many times during the week my team is picking up the phone or emailing his team saying, "Hey, our supplier doesn't have a truck available, or something happened. Can you pick this up on the way back from your run?" Right? And I know it's quite frequent. It happens, I don't know, Tony, 4 or 5 times a day, probably.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The tracker.
Yeah,
we had to create a tool. It was so frequent.
Yeah, we have a live living document for pickups because our suppliers either their trucks are maxed out, they're down a CDL, whatever it is, right? So
I'm trying to get Austin his own fleet. That way it doesn't take away from our outbound stuff. But
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's talk about that, Austin, real quick. We got to get this. Will, I know you're just dying here. Austin, does Tony have freight or what?
we spoke a little bit today, and I think the answer is no. No freight from Mr. Darnell.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah, it sounds like there's no freight. Like there's definitely not any freight anywhere.
I got nothing.
usually-
We go on our trucks.
The only reason Tony picks stuff up is because I usually follow it up with and if you don't pick it up, you won't have anything to ship tomorrow. So that's usually the kicker at the end of it.
No, you can't have us believe you when you lead it off with, well, me and Tony talked earlier today, and I think the answer is no.
We had a
Oh,
prep
man.
session.
I thought that was the number one rule. Tony has no freight.
That was the number one rule. I told him.
Well, it's been a rule since we started, and he just keeps harping on it. It's a beautiful thing.
Every
at
Friday
this point-
morning, I wake up
Yeah.
to 75 DMs asking how they can get onboarded as a carrier.
So
And for
what
I
I'm
don't
saying
have
is,
loans.
I'm a big guy. I like to follow trends. Will, you're probably the same. And if it's trending that every time I say I don't have freight, I still have 75 DMs in the morning, I'm just gonna give it up. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you know what? It is what it is.
All right,
Yeah.
I lied. I have
And
2
Will,
loads a
also-
week, and they're all covered. No worries. That's it.
No, but I mean, what about? You talk about things like this. Now, these are the conversations, though, that I always preach to my people to have, because there's always opportunity there, right? And Tony doesn't have freight. I get it. He does. He has a local fleet, right? Understandable, right? He's producing parts for RVs in the RV capital of the world, so nothing's going more than a couple miles, right? So, but the thing is, though, is he talks. You talk with a purchasing manager, right? You may hear that, hey, their suppliers need trucks, right?
Mhm.
Things like that. Just the ins and outs of the supply chain. Now, when you do that, the thing is about building a relationship with people in the industry is, it's probably not best as soon as you're talking and Austin says that, you go, oh, sweet, can I get some? Sometimes you can take that information and bring it to your other customers. Now you've got another avenue, to open up, some more doors to open up, and you build a close enough relationship. Down the line, if Austin's hurt bad enough, he's going to ask you eventually, hey, can you help me out on this? You may even say that you took it to your other customers, whatever it is. I mean, there's a way to do it without, being overbearing and still being able to have a relationship, not putting pressure on anybody. But those are the conversations that give you the idea that there are opportunities there. But you just got to be able to understand them and even know they exist.
Mhm.
Have you ever had a
Will,
carrier approach you?
you're having a lot of those higher, I know you're having a lot of those higher level conversations and whatnot. How true does that ring even at the higher level context that you're talking about?
So I think the important thing to realize, and this is something I was actually going to ask Austin because I think it's insightful, is to understand what the person you're talking to cares about relative to their job responsibilities and whoever they report to. And I think that's different across the board. Like Austin has different responsibilities and things that he cares about specific to his team that are different than Tony. And that is the case with almost every contact that you work with. So it's important to understand how what you're doing works into their role. And so I think it's probably a good opportunity to get a feel for Austin, on your day to day. What is it that drives the needle for you that you care about as being a purchasing manager versus a shipping coordinator? Like it's two different roles.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the primary is to have enough raw material for the plant to run production and manufacture, right? And it's a challenge. Just I laugh. So we would, as a plant, we're willing to be very flexible with carriers, right? We have standard receiving hours, whether it's 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. We'll open it up on second shift if need be, whatever we got to do, right? Whatever's going to, I don't know, incentivize the carrier to get the product here. I found it's a struggle right now to even get we'll open it up on second shift. Hey, you guys can bring this truck at 8 p.m., 10 p.m., midnight. I don't care. Just get it here. We'll get you unloaded. and we even get pushback on that. Oh no, it's got to be tomorrow morning. I understand there's a lot of different, but we're just desperate to get the material here so we can stay operational. But definitely
Saturdays.
it's Saturdays. We'll do that.
Sometimes that's the best, option. Sometimes, you look, say you got some weird, I don't know, different, you guys do so many different commodities, right? That your equipment changes. And say you need a Conestoga and it's tough to find or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those are conversations you got to have where you say, hey, listen, if you guys can load this guy on second shift, I've got an option. Lock down to be their second shift. If not, and at this rate, right? If it's going to be tomorrow morning, it's going to be this rate. And so, those are getting conversations you have because it's like, all right, hey, they're flexible there. Let them know why they're coming in on second shift or why it would be more advantageous to do it because you're going to save yourself $1,200. You know what I mean? Maybe that's work for them.
Yeah, that could be the trick. I'm open to trying some new stuff with these guys. I feel like a lot of the companies, right, they just want to get the haul in and get it delivered and get paid and do what they got to do. So I know I respect that everyone's trying to do their thing and make their living. But definitely. I mean, that's a good point by Will on what makes everyone tick, right? What's driving everybody and what do they need? So.
Yeah, I think part of the process of relationship development and understanding how to work with who you're working with is just knowing what matters to them. Like your value drivers are just completely different. And if I am absolutely out of the loop on what that is, it's really hard for someone like myself or TJ or anyone to communicate with you and really understand what is going to be able to help you the most. So that part's huge.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you look at, these opportunities are there for both sides, right? For both sides, when you create these relationships, because I put a post out the other day about, network, getting to know other people in the industry that do other things, right? So if I'm having a conversation with Austin or the director of supply chain, whatever it is, and like Will said, you're actually listening to what their needs are, what they can and can't do. These guys, people talk. Like that's why I always tell people, like they're at a company, people talk, right? And if you help out, a guy because he needs drayage, right, or he's hurt here or there, and you don't do that, and you've got a guy, right? He needs a CRM, whatever it is. I mean, hiring needs, whatever it is that he needs, and you've got some people in the industry that and you can provide value in that way. You're more likely to get a referral. You're more likely to keep that relationship going, and you're more likely for them to start leaning on you. That's why I always said, like, get these guys to lean on you. They're busy right now. Everybody is busy right now, and if you can get them to lean on you and you #handle it, Tony, then they're gonna use you all day long. You know what I mean? But you got to have some sort of value that makes them want to lean on you.
I've got the #handle it shirt. Stole it right off of TJ's back. It's all good.
One thing that I didn't touch on, I'd say communication. So aside from raw material, I think communication and somewhat accurate communication makes a big difference. That's probably the struggle now is in I'm not super in the weeds on a lot of that, but why aren't carriers making their appointments and why aren't they telling us until 2 hours after? You know what I mean? That makes it tough to plan. So I mean that's almost just as important as having the raw material. If we know it's not coming, we can come up with the plan B and keep stuff operational. But if we're banking on it coming and they're saying it's coming and it doesn't show up, right, or it's 4 or 8 hours late.
Is it your carrier or is it the supplier's carrier? Are you buying the freight or are you buying delivered product?
It's mostly, I'm talking imports right now. So whoever our broker has picking up that load that day, right? They use 6 or 7 different ones.
I'm just curious.
And right now, especially, I mean, you look at just overall. I mean, even some of our huge customers, they'll send out scorecards that do overall carriers.
Yeah.
And you can read articles on service failures, or you can even just look at that data. But say you got a huge customer and they're sending out scorecards on the overall thing, and the service failures are so high right now. I mean, it's just part of it. And because as much as shippers and receivers and suppliers, manufacturers, they got to adjust to. I always told Tony, these guys have a manual on how to do things, but this type of market's just not in the manual. I mean, they got to get creative. They got to come up with things. You can provide those solutions, But at the same time, on a broker's end or a carrier's end, there's not really much of a manual for what they're doing. The fact that the wait times have increased so much. You got to be able to plan your driver out. You got to be able to find parking. You got to know if he can even. You can't cut it close. You can't take a normal load within X amount of hours after you're delivering, because you may be at delivery for the whole day, right? But at the end of the day, it all comes down to the fact that we talked about this plenty of times, is if you can deliver bad news in a correct way and efficiently and accurately, you'll make it in this industry. But you got to be able to. You can't. That's the problem. Is you're getting a lot of people that aren't used to dealing with this, and they want to have that relationship. They don't want to let them down, and they don't want to tell them what the truth is. But they don't realize it actually pisses your customer off more when you're telling them, either a fake ETA or you don't even have the information, and you're telling them one, it doesn't work out.
I was always given the option in my role at the very first place I had an opportunity to be in lead position at, and it was a leadership mentor, my buddy Eric that I had on here once. He pulled me into the office one time. It's the president and the GM, and they're standing there and they're like, "You can't tell a salesman no." I was like, "They want same day service to Minnesota, 500 miles away. The answer is no." He said, "No, you can't say no. You can say no, but here's what I can do." You always had to provide another opportunity. What you can't meet the expectation that they're asking you now, but you have to tell them, "No, I can't meet that expectation, but here's what I can do." And you have to provide a solution along with this problem. You can't just say nope and walk away. That's not an acceptable response.
It opens up more opportunities too. You look on a broker's or carrier end. They send over.
Yeah, TJ's
busy, right? Here comes the purchase order. You send it out for spot bid, right? Am I losing you?
Yeah, you're cutting out a little bit.
Can you hear me? Oh, sorry. But opportunity-wise on a broker carrier side too.
This is all right. Well, TJ's cutting out. I'm gonna mute him. So I got a question for you, Austin, and this will be for you too, Will, because I want to hear what you guys both have to say on this. Andrew Teal gave me this great question that I never had thought of until I asked you. He's still talking. Dude, no one can hear you.
Come in, they send over
TJ.
Anyway, all right, dude, put it on mute. We can't hear you. All right, so here's the question that Teal had. So January, there was a presidential change. How does the before and after go through a huge change like that, where there's like a countrywide philosophical change in how we do things? Well, how does that affect guys like you? I mean, it didn't change my business one bit. We're still delivering locally and doing all that stuff. But what does that mean about like international tariffs? What does that mean about drayage? What does that mean lead times? Are you having import export issues with other countries? That does it change from one to the other at all, or do you see any of that, or is it stuff take 6-8 months to pan out, or what?
Will, you go ahead and answer first.
So from our perspective, there hasn't been a lot that's changed. Most of what we do is domestic full truckload. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are some challenges with imports and things of that nature, but we don't really do a ton of that. So all things considered, not much has changed.
Yeah, I'd say, Tony, the only thing that really changed was just maybe being a little more strategic on where we're buying product from, right? You can find different factories to make the same product in different countries for the most part. So just based off of, we're not politicians, right? So we don't know any more than anybody else, but we just try and stay up to date and, be strategic about where we're importing from, because, that could change overnight with whatever instability or any conflict or anything like that. So, yeah.
I don't know if there's anything specific.
No, not much of an impact. The tariff thing is always in question, right? Everyone wants to know what's going to happen with tariffs, but yeah, no, it didn't change anything overnight. It's just you just have some other thoughts floating around in your head.
Always. So here's a follow-up to that. But so with the whole coronavirus COVID-19 epidemic, pandemic, everything shut down, everything swung back, and then suddenly our market segment, supply chain and recreational vehicles and commercial vehicles exploded, right? We weren't predicting this growth without that. And then, so how has that affected you as a purchaser? And I know our vendors, I mean, none of this was forecasted. It was forecasted to be a better year than 19. Obviously we were on an upward trend, but that spike went from like a 10% to like a 50 or whatever.
Pretty quickly.
And then have the suppliers been able to keep up?
I think the consensus answer would be no. No, they haven't been able to keep up. We've had to expand our horizon of where we're buying product. If in the past we were only importing something and not buying it domestically, right? We've changed that strategy. Right now we're going to buy X percentage overseas and buy X percentage domestically. It was extremely challenging. I mean, we had to have a lot of conversations, and I know we talked about relationships a little bit here, and we just had to be upfront with a lot of the suppliers. Like, hey, if you can't handle this, what we think is going to happen over the next 30 days, we need to know right now, because we're going to have to buy from somebody else or find some other source for it. So it's, I think through that whole thing though, the suppliers that were able to keep up and staff up and keep us running, that relationship is stronger than ever, right? We know those guys can handle it, and definitely supporting through that whole chaotic growth period. I mean, that speaks for itself, and those suppliers are held in pretty high regard as far as we're concerned.
So you're diversifying because of supply chain reliability, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we, container delays, import delays, port congestion, all that stuff. We're relying on domestic suppliers to help fill the gap with short lead time. Hey, this container got delayed 3 weeks. We need 3 more weeks from you, right? That maybe we hadn't forecasted, or I don't know, something along those lines happens all the time.
Nobody forecasted this, but now, I mean, we're a year in. The mask mandate's gone in a lot of places around the country. A lot of places are opening back up. People are going to the live events. There's a higher antibody rate and a higher vaccination rate. And, we're not too far away from that magic herd immunity thing that everyone's talking about, so that we can just, go back to normal.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. But I think we're at our new normal now, but so the demand spike's no longer new. Now what?
Yeah.
Right? Now it's just, is it keeping up or what? I know we can't always keep up to our customers' demands. I mean, everything's hot.
I think it speaks a lot about, which guys or which suppliers want to, want the growth and want to support it and are willing to do whatever they got to do to be there for their customers. And then you got the guys that are still making excuses. And because they're maxed out and they're content with that, right? They don't want to add a building expansion or hire 20 more people or put 2 new lines in, right? To be able to sustain. They're just kind of comfortable where they're at right now. And I think you can get away with it now, but when all this dust settles, right, and everything normalizes, it's going to eventually. I think those guys will be the ones that are really paying for it on the back end.
I think Austin's spot on. I was having a conversation today with a large shipper of ours and kind of talking about the growth we've sustained, and nobody forecasted that all of our shippers would be as busy as they are. And if we had said, hey, we can't take the volume, right? We can't manage it. There's nothing we can do. We wouldn't be in the situation we are today with more and more opportunities that they want to partner with us on. So it's one of those things that you just have to figure out a way to make it work. But we've added 250 people over the last year. And I mean, like, the only way to continue to grow in that manner is to figure out ways to support the shippers that you have. And so it's imperative, like Austin said, to be nimble and figure out ways, because we didn't expect for them to grow this way, and neither did they. So it's important to be transparent and just find ways to help them out where you can. But I mean, not everybody is as adamant about scaling up to figure out a way to support the businesses.
Yeah.
How do you find that in purchasing? I mean, I know a lot of people say yes to business just to say yes to business. I mean, as a supplier, you know those people that, well, maybe you don't. How do you figure out who those people are that are just saying yes to say yes, but can't produce? They can't really actually fulfill that. Is it lessons learned the hard way, or?
Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, for the most part, you learn pretty quickly, right? Are they hitting their delivery dates? And that shows immediately after you start doing business with somebody. You always ask on the front end, right? Hey, what are you guys doing right now? If they're local, I'm definitely going to try and swing by their plant for a plant tour, just to check out and see what's going on.
Do you ask about capacity? What's normal? What's
peak?
This?
Yeah, exactly. How's your labor force? What's your, if it's heavy machine operation, what's your daily output capacity? What are you doing right now? How much room do you have? All that stuff. And they can lie, it's nothing I can't. I usually take people's word for it on the front end.
Do you have a BS detector?
It's tough, man. I mean, there's a feel to it, right? You guys have people sense, and you talk to people and communicate with people all day, and you develop a feel for who's just blowing smoke and who's being legitimate. So
yeah, back when I had freight, it was the same way.
Back when you had freight,
you could always tell the guys that they always say they can handle your load, and they tell you how many trucks they have available to them. And whenever the numbers in the thousands, you knew it was just via brokerage. And like right now that no one can get a truck, you call those same guys up, and the market. I thought you had these 16,000 trucks. Where they're all busy.
Oh, you calling the wrong people, man.
I was. This was years ago, man. Before I had a private fleet. Private fleets are great, but if you do have freight, you should use Will.
Yes. Not people that are not like you that don't have freight.
I fessed up. I have 2 loads a week, and they're covered weekly.
Watch out.
There goes my DMs. So, did you guys see the video today? There was apparently 2 separate cranes that crashed today in ports, and one in Taiwan, I think, and one in China.
Did see that.
That
looked really bad.
Yeah. The ship hit the crane, and the other one, the crane just collapsed, I think. So we had talked to some folks last week, and a few weeks ago, people were talking about container shortage. We couldn't actually get containers. Well, I know right down the street from our plant, there's a storage company that uses containers, and they've got hundreds of them available. Mm-hmm. And what we're hearing then from some of these other people that have been on the show is there's not actually a container shortage. It's actually more of a chassis shortage. You're not able to get a chassis under the containers to move them.
Yeah.
What are you hearing? Austin, what are the excuses? I say excuses. What are the valid, legitimate reasons that you're hearing that these guys aren't able to move in a timely manner? Is it the port being backed up? The dray trucks just unwilling to take less than favorable freight?
I mean, right now it's getting the container pulled and chassis shortages, right? So I'm thinking through an email I saw the other day was, hey, I've only got 15 chassis today. They're booked today and they're booked tomorrow. The best I can do is Thursday, right? So, I see something like that every day.
Very cool. Not very cool. It's very informative. I know I have the issue, we have everything that we have is late and hot because we don't have the material to build everything on time or to have it sitting there ready to go when it is due. And we'll call in an LTL shipment on a collect shipment and let the customer know. And then they'll call in tomorrow and wonder why it hasn't shipped yet. Well, the carrier never showed up to pick it up. Then why not? When you call them and they say, well, we're booked, we're solid, we can't take another thing. But they don't tell you that. They just don't show up.
Yeah.
The next day they may.
I have a question for Will. So do you communicate daily with people that maybe aren't super in the supply chain or well versed on where it's at right now and struggle to explain to them?
Yeah, so
what it's like.
Yeah, it happens a lot of times if you are working through like scheduling a shipment or maybe handling something with a team that might not be in the loop on what's going on outside of their warehouse. And so there's a lot of communication that we have to do where we are ideally bringing valuable information to each shipping partner so that they're aware of what we're seeing and what's going on. So the communication flows seamlessly and it's a little bit less of a surprise when they get a feel for, gosh, why is that rate, the rate that it is, or why are we network wide seeing delays, or why is the market sitting where it's sitting? Well, it's up to us to do a better job of communicating what we're seeing and how we're combating those effects. But it certainly happens. And a lot of times you just got to hop on the phone and kind of explain it, because I was having a conversation a couple of weeks ago with a large beverage distributor, and they're talking about, a lot of pressure they're getting from the top around securing capacity and driving rates down. And my contact was essentially like, there's just not much we can do about it right now because there's more freight than there are trucks available. So as we're doing everything we can to secure drivers, rates are probably going to drive up, because if we don't pay them, someone else is going to utilize that capacity and the load is going to sit. So there's certainly a disconnect sometimes where people just think like you snap your fingers and a truck shows up. That's not what is going on right now.
I mean, hands down, probably the most frustrating part of my day to day is talking with sales reps or higher up, or I mean, just operations guys. Like, well, what do you mean the truck's not here, or why can't they pick it up or pull it out faster? I'm like, what do you want me to? You know what I mean? Like, they don't work for us. I can't drive there and make them pull it faster. I can't make a chassis and just throw it. You know what I mean? And just
I get that. I get those questions all the time from folks who, they're very high up and they just don't know that you can't just, you want to call it in. You want to tell them, yeah, I can book a truck on this, but A, it's not done. I can't call a truck in for it tomorrow until I have the DIMs.
Yeah.
And B, even if I call a truck in tomorrow, there's no guarantee, and it's pretty slim guarantee nowadays, that if you do use an outside carrier for a LTL shipment or something, they still might not show up, especially if you have less than desirable cubic or non-cubic cubed freight.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I don't know, Tony, I probably waste an hour or two a day just repeating the same thing.
How many people high up do you know? I say this all the time on here. I've preached this sermon 100 times, and those of us in the industry understand this, but I say in manufacturing, especially, people get high up because they can produce results. Mm-hmm. People move up and become plant GMs and vice presidents, et cetera, et cetera. But how many of them don't know diddly squat about freight?
Maybe 2 years ago, not much. I'd say though, with all we've been through the last 8 months, 9 months, a lot of those guys are pretty well in tune with how it works. I mean, I think my boss is, but I'm just, yeah. No, I'm sure there are some maybe at plants that aren't importing as much, right? And they're all domestic freight. They might not be privy to what's going on or the struggles, but I think a lot of the bigger plants and guys that are running bigger facilities, they've unfortunately learned the hard way, right? And I think they're pretty well in tune. But yeah, you're going to have different segments of businesses, right, that maybe don't have their hands in the supply chain pot, for sure, that just have no idea about some of the struggles.
Yeah. I wanted to touch on something that y'all both said a little bit earlier that is near and dear to my heart, talking about booking a truck and rolling the dice around whether or not it's going to show up. It boggles my mind that people still do that. And Tony, you've heard me talk about this previously in other shows, but we just don't do that. Like, if I get a load from a customer, I'm moving the load, right? Now, that doesn't mean that every load that I move is profitable, and it doesn't mean that it's easy or I don't have to book a second truck because that first truck falls off and now it went from a $200 winner to maybe I'm losing $300, $400, $500. But if I commit to a shipment, I'm moving it. Even in the midst of this ridiculous market, it's never been harder to secure capacity than it is today. And we still move all of our loads if we're committing to the shipments for our customers. So it boggles my mind to think that people are approaching their business today saying, man, I'm just going to tell Austin, even if it's the vendor or whatever, that I don't have a truck for this load. I'm just not going to pick it up, or they just don't pick it up. What do people think is going to happen when the market softens? Yeah. And Austin remembers all the people that actually did what they said they were going to do. He's going to have a small, tight-knit group of people he works with, and everyone else is going to pound sand because they couldn't show up when it was tough. And I don't understand it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I have a small list of people I can't wait to not do business with anymore, but not a choice right now.
Give it about 20 years. That list is long. I've got a long list.
I'm sure.
And it's only because, I tell people all the time there's a fail rate that a lot of people have, if it's 2%, 3%, whatever. And I've had the people actually commit to me and tell me that. And I'm like, I don't have 2% fail opportunity. I can't.
Yeah.
That's my job.
And, I don't know. It could be that the container wasn't pulled in time, right? And wasn't able to get loaded on their chassis, right? So maybe it's not necessarily their fault.
Right.
How well are they communicating that when that happens? Or then there's the stuff out of their control, right? Flat tire, truck breaks down. I've heard it all, but
that's the no but.
Yeah, but we'll pick it up tomorrow, right? I'd love to hear that. Then we can adjust on the fly and we can plan around it.
Yeah, here's the receipt for the truck repair, just so you know I'm not full of crap. And I'll see you in the morning because you ran out of hours today.
Yeah, I might highlight them for like supplier of the month or something if someone did that.
There's a lot of places that do. I mean,
that bar is so low, man. This is what like motivates a lot of what we're looking at about being able to like do this business the right way is like, if you just tell people that your truck is delayed or things are going on, it's like, oh my gosh, it's the most amazing thing ever. Like someone's communicating. It's like, that should be the expectation that you hold your suppliers to or your vendors to, because it's impossible for you to expect to run your business well if you don't know what's going on.
Yeah. I have a very recent example of that. We moved a machine, way out of my wheelhouse of normal operations. We moved a machine to someplace in Georgia, and I got an address from the maintenance guy, and we get there and you get a call from the carrier. This is nobody here by that. That's the wrong place. Oh yeah, they moved. We updated the address. Well, then we send it to that place, for another $200 or $300, whatever. We moved the machine over to this new address. Excuse me. And they're like, so what's the word? What's the word? No news is good news. If they don't tell you something's wrong, it must have been right. Everybody wants better communication. That's the key. And if you can just follow through and communicate, problems can be dealt with if we know about them. If we don't know about them, they're just problems. Nobody wants problems. We want solutions. I heard it in a leadership training here recently. I have a great boss, and one of the leadership things he said is leaders solve problems. That's our job as leaders. And that it's so true. And if you want to be in a good position to solve problems, get in there and lead and solve the problem. Provide a solution, not a problem.
Yep. Very true.
Will, you've been saying that a long time. TJ says it all the time. Don't offer a problem. Don't offer a solution, or don't offer a problem without offering a solution as well. TJ used to always say that.
Every time. I mean, the thing about it is you think about whatever your contact is working through, however many broken down trucks or rejected shipments or, whatever's going on at the plant that particular day, and you've got something else to deliver that's not the best of news, that better be followed up with what you're doing to work on it proactively, because the next question they're going to have is like, all right, what are you going to do about it? And the answer can't be like, I don't know. It needs to be like, this is what I'm doing about it, which is fine. Like things happen. It's okay.
Everybody knows trucks break down, man. Everybody's got a truck on the road. Even the old iron is out running. The stuff that they retired 2 years ago is back on the road right now. And that stuff is breaking down. But you know what? If you give me that idea, hey, we're not going to make it in tonight, I can make arrangements for a late delivery. I tell people all the time, we have a second shift. They're not going to be sitting there waiting for you to knock on the door of the shipping office. But if we know you're coming, we have a guy that can watch for you. We can he's got a key to the gate. He can let you in after hours. We can get that delivery to happen. We can get that pickup made. We can provide the solution to the problem if you communicate. But if you just don't show up,
Yeah. Well, here's a great example. I think you'll gawk at this one. So, we had a load picked up. We got confirmation it was picked up about 2 hours away the day before at 3 p.m. Right. So we need this at 5 a.m. the next morning. We need it to be operational tomorrow, or we're just not going to be able to bring 150 people in. Because we've been burned so many times, we made a backup schedule to cover us until 10 a.m. right? So an extra 4 or 5 hour buffer, and the container ended up showing up at 9 a.m. Right. So like that, after it was promised at 5. So I mean, that's the stuff like we've learned the hard way so many times, and the communication and the on timeliness is so bad that we just intuitively make backup plans already, just because we know the state of.
In your experiences though, I mean, we get a lot of deliveries that are not containers, but is that pretty confined to the container trucks?
Import? Yeah, mostly import right now.
Do you get a lot of communication from the inbound stuff that's on dry vans, flatbeds, etc.?
Third party?
Yeah.
No,
It just
not
happens.
really. Yeah. No, we got an email from them after it showed up. This should be there now. And I was like, oh, okay, thanks.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate the heads up.
I see the truck in our dock right now, but thanks for letting me know.
Man, it's interesting that that's kind of where you all are at. I mean, at least you're thinking proactively to make sure that your plant isn't shut down and whatnot, but ideally that never is the scenario, and product is where it needs to be. That's tough though.
Yeah.
I can only imagine the look on your face. You're like, that knew it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. What are you gonna do? Send a nasty email? That doesn't do anything, right? You just kind of take the punches and move on.
Totally.
Did you choose freight, or did freight choose you? Did you get into ops, or did you get into purchasing?
No, not at all. I'm a finance background. I like numbers. I was forced into this supply chain through the last 12 months of just kind of what's going on with the industry, right? I think my first year in purchasing, I had zero issues with logistics. I didn't know diddly about it, right? And then through COVID and coming out of COVID, I learned very quickly.
You had to.
And I mean, I still learn something new every day. Who am I kidding? But yeah, you had to, right? I think the importance of a supply chain has been amplified 1,000 times over the last year, right? Year and a half. So
trial by fire, man. You just jumped in.
Yeah, boy, you came in at the right time, huh?
Oh man, I tell you what, can't get any worse than what it's been like the last 12 months.
You should have seen it in 18. We were complaining about it then. It was like, that'd be like what happens on vacation now.
Oh my goodness, man.
18 was nice.
Was a breeze. Comparatively, the breeze.
No, it's been a great learning experience for
sure.
I
mean, a veteran by this time next year.
Yeah, we'll see.
So, what do you feel like the future holds? What do you think is happening? Do you see an end, or like this is everybody's question? I think the consensus is Q3, Q4 this year, that there's even just some level
breathing room. Yeah, I mean, I've heard Q3 it got pushed to Q4, right? And then some guys are saying Q1 2022. I don't know. I mean, what good does it do to even try and predict it, right?
At this point, none.
So I know everyone's concerned about, everything's cyclical, right? Economy, our industry, whatever you want to call it. So everyone's going to staff up and buy all these trucks and have these massive fleets, and then things slow down. And so I think, I don't know, you never know.
The interesting thing is that there's nothing pointing to the market trending down, because
I agree with you.
There's increased economic activity, the highest port activity that we've ever seen, and the Port of LA, the Port of Long Beach, New Jersey, there are legitimately not enough drivers for the volumes that exist. And until there are more drivers in seats driving, it's just supply and
never
demand.
Gonna get better.
It's so I've certainly as well seen reports of, maybe it ticks down a little bit in August and then it picks back up Q3, Q4, but I don't think that we are anywhere close. We might be 18 months off from a reprieve, and it will be cyclical. And when it drops, it's probably going to be a stark drop at that point, because as you mentioned, there's going to be a lot of capacity that floods the market, and the freight volumes might not be there, but we are in for a ride.
Yeah, no, we still got. I agree with you 100%. I was just playing devil's advocate.
Man, I wish. Shoot, you roll that
Yeah,
dice.
I know. I'd love to take a
Free.
week off work, right? But
Exactly.
no, it's yeah. I don't. We're not seeing anything. I mean, Tony, from our industry standpoint, it's going to be strong for a while. There's orders out 12 months, at current rates, and definitely not slowing down. So I mean, you gotta learn to adjust. You got to make the investments, right? In equipment, people, culture, all sorts of those things that make a business successful to take advantage of what's going on right now. Because I guarantee, just like you guys said, our customers aren't going to forget who supported them, right, through all the craziness. So
let me ask you another question here. This is one that a lot of people talk when Mike, Midwest Mike, when he was on here, he would always try and sell to the CEO, to the CFO, to the purchasing manager. He would always get to the higher level people and talk to them about the big picture. And how much of your inbound do you control? I mean, are you shopping logistics, or are you just buying delivered, whatever it takes, get it here?
I personally don't know.
Do you ever line item freight? I mean, are you able to let them hide margin in delivery?
Oh, you know the answer to this one.
That's why I asked.
Yeah, some of our domestic suppliers, we don't have line item freight, so it's FOB our door. Yeah, they could be hiding some extra margin in the freight cost.
But you're a keen freight nerd now.
Yeah, you've shown me the light, Tony. I do think about it.
It had nothing to do with me, man. You were baptized in the fire of COVID.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it's insane. They're probably making a lot of money on freight right now. But.
You probably know a ton of contacts though, right? I mean, you guy like Will could get a hold of you and have a 5-10 minute conversation and just not know what to do with all the extra work.
You don't say.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Well, those are all the questions I had. I don't have any more great ones in here that anybody provided or that I came up with, because I wasn't actually prepared to
I got
be
one.
asking the questions.
I got one for Austin. How does someone on the vendor side, whether it is a carrier partner or a vendor that you work with, a supplier or something like that, how do they make your job easier?
Good one.
That's a great question. Service, right? So is it a quality product, and is it on time? Those are probably the two biggest as far as service goes. I mean, right now, we talk about settling, right? Right. I'll take that right now, right? If you can make a quality product and it's here when you're going to say it's here, we're on good terms, and we're loving you guys right now. We do have a couple of suppliers that maybe are in like the highest tier, I'd say, and they're even flexible with lead time, right? Hey, I need it in 4 days instead of 8 days, or those guys that come through and pull those strings for you. That's what's important to us right now. Definitely. The customer service is more important than ever. That's what I'd say.
That's a great answer.
It's huge. It's good insight. Like we were talking about in the beginning, everyone has different responsibilities, and what you're concerned about and whatnot. It's a little bit different than a handful of other contacts that we might be speaking with. So that's super helpful.
Yeah.
Austin, what questions do you have for people like Will? Will is a provider of solutions.
What will day to day right now for you in the supply chain? What's the most challenging part? What's the most challenging or the most frustrating part of your job?
Same as you.
Yeah. So I would say specifically to our business, one of the more challenging pieces is growing and scaling the way that we have. So we have grown very aggressively. We have quite a large team now versus where we were 2.5 years ago. And so doing everything necessary to make sure that you are bringing people up properly, training them, getting them up to speed to understand the ins and outs of what we do is a huge, huge piece of our success. And so making sure that we are extremely focused on that so that when someone moves on and works with an account or is developing carrier relationships, they truly understand our business is a huge focus. That takes a lot of intense focus and a lot of resources to get done, but it's a big piece of what we have to do. The other part that's probably pretty stressful is similar to you. So there's so many outside things that we can't control with the market and with what we're seeing with volumes that it's challenging to forecast or it's challenging to put yourself in a situation to be able to navigate it. But I think the communication aspect is something that can be used to kind of circumvent those challenges. If you're having open, transparent communication with your partners and letting them know what you're seeing, most things don't come as a surprise. They're like, okay, I appreciate that you're keeping me in the loop on what's going on, but that doesn't make it any easier. I think that we've gotten used to this pace of work. That's probably another thing. I mean, we are working unbelievably hard, right? Like our team is absolutely working their butts off. And it's like they're used to this new hectic, crazy pace that it's tough at times to understand how to kind of keep people locked in so that they don't overwork themselves because it's demanding. Transportation is demanding as a whole, but in this environment right now, everything is extra demanding. So making sure that we're doing what we can for our people to keep them happy and not overworked is a challenge because it's a lot.
Absolutely.
Yep. That's a great point.
I have another question for Will. I mean, this is like a little off topic, but because you're dealing with so many from the brokerage side or the carrier side at this point, because capacity is such an issue and you're sourcing so many small carriers because of that's just the makeup of the market and the providers out there. It's so diverse. There's not, I don't know. I heard something like the top 10 biggest trucking companies together only make up like 2% of the trucks in
That
America.
Is correct. So about 85 to 90% of all capacity is between 1 and 10 trucks.
Yeah, something crazy like that. How do you? I mean, this is a dumb question. It's going to sound rehearsed, but how do you not vet them? But how do you provide? How do you get to the point where you know that the capacity that you are providing is legit to versus like what Austin was saying? How do you sniff out the BS before you get there?
Yeah,
I know you have a process, but
I think the first part is understanding that people need to be able to ask the right questions on the front end to understand whether or not that truck is the right truck for the load or that carrier is the right carrier for our network based on what they like to run, their track record, information that we're able to get access to, whether it be Carrier 401 or reviews on different sites and things of that nature. There will always be things that don't work out the way you anticipate that they do, but holding our carrier partners to the standards that our shippers hold us to in terms of on-time pick performance, on-time delivery performance, communication, things like that, essentially streamlining that process so that if and when someone doesn't adhere to those expectations, they're unfortunately not a part of the network is key, because if we allow our carrier partners to perform lower than what our shipper standards are, we're going to be out of that shipper quickly. So it's important for us to set those same standards, but a lot of it has to do with the relationship development aspect. And it's something that I point to when I look at building and scaling a network. You take a carrier with 1 truck or 5 trucks or 10 trucks, that person isn't going to be valuable at that scale to a large shipper that's got thousands of shipments per day because they've only got a couple of trucks. But if you develop those relationships properly and that carrier knows they've got access to thousands of shipments because of their relationship with you, you're a customer to them and you bring a lot of value to what they're able to do. Likewise, you're then able to help them grow and scale their business. So they might go from a 5-truck operation to a 10-truck operation because they've got dedicated freight they run for a brokerage, and that allows them to scale their business. So I think I spent a long time on the carrier side. I have a lot of passion for understanding and developing that business. I think a lot of it comes down to digging in with the partners and making sure that they're an extension of what you're doing. And if you do that, you really have a captive fleet to an extent that gives you access to capacity that you wouldn't have, and they have to perform. Otherwise, they're not able to grow.
So I knew that answer. I knew that you would word it in a way more eloquent way than I would have, and I've heard you explain that answer before, and that's why I wanted you to say it again, because it is so exactly the same as what Austin's job is. Replace carrier with supplier, and you guys have the same job.
Mhm.
That's pretty cool. I just wanted to point that out. I thought it was really awesome that you guys
Yeah.
actually have the same job.
It's true.
It's very cool.
Good point, Tony.
Well, I have no dad jokes.
Man.
We normally try and piece out on a dad joke. I don't think I have anything good for anybody as far as dad jokes go. Will, you got any good dad jokes?
You know what? I didn't look up anything and I got nothing off the top. You know what? I have one.
There we go.
All right. So you know what they say about used to be's, right?
What's that?
They don't make no honey. So don't be a used to be. You hate to see it.
What do you call it? Typo on a headstone. A grave mistake.
Oh man.
Yeah, all right. I got nothing. We're out. I'm sorry, TJ. I had to throw a dad joke in there for you.
That was great.
Austin,
Awesome.
thanks for coming on. And anybody, if you have anything that you need moved, Will is the guy that can move it.
And Tony and Austin, they don't have freight.
I don't
No
have
freight.
Austin might. I don't have any.
No freight. Hey, it's nice to meet you, Will. Hope we
Great
talk
to meet
again.
you. Y'all take care.
See you guys. Thanks.